Hello, everyone, and welcome to the GMologist Presents. I'm here today with Streamrolla again,
Hello.
and we are continuing our celebration of RPGs through hashtag RPG a Day 2026, a kind of cool thing started by at Autocratic and at Runeslinger, Dave Chapman, and Anthony Boyd to celebrate our favorite hobby, RPGs. And today we're going to do days 5 through 8 and maybe some surprises. But today's day number 5, as of time of recording, and that prompt is burden.
Burden. A beast of burden, I guess.
A beast of burden. What does burden mean
Maybe.
to you as a in the context of play or as a player or
Well, multiple things. Could be a beast of burden. Like, let's say I'm going to storm a castle, which we are doing. Taking one beast of burden may not be enough for all the treasure I might find. So, is the burden going to be too much for my mule, or should I take a cart? But it's also the burden of planning for the adventure and hoping the other players like the plan. Or
Mhm.
maybe even just being the burden of the one that feels like the burden always rests on them to make the plan.
Right?
I don't know.
Right.
What does burden mean to a GM?
Well, the burden of presenting a good game, the burden of having a good session, the burden of prepping for a session, that is pretty important as well. Um, I think that's what that means for a GM, but I think that burden, like you say in the context of gameplay, is like encumbrance. What's the load that you can carry? And encumbrance is kind of usually hand waved in most games. Uh, no one really keeps track of the bits and pieces. I guess some GMs might, but in most games that I've been, it's kind of hand waved. It's just kind of done with common sense. Can you carry, you know, a hoard of 10,000 gold pieces? How are you going to transport it? I think that weighs like a 100 pounds or 1,000 pounds. I don't remember. It depends on the on what game system you're using.
Well,
But
personally, I'm going to use my magical bag of holding
yeah, you got bags
that
of
I
holding.
do not have.
Exactly. Exactly. That's how
I
you
have one of
mitigate.
those.
That's how you mitigate encumbrance. It's, the ubiquitous bags of holding that like, oh, okay, we get rid
But
of
they
it.
have
So
to be
maybe,
magical
yeah,
because
well,
it's
instead
just a bag is still
a
that's still
bag.
heavy.
Right. So that's what's kind of funny is right there are ways to through magic to get around that. So it's not really seems an integral part of the game when you get to a certain level and you can not have to worry about that. I think that one of the coolest representations of this concept of burden is in the One Ring RPG, where encumbrance represents the weight of your equipped weapons and armor, which is called load, and directly adds to your fatigue rating. And when your total fatigue meets or exceeds your current endurance, you become weary. So then, therefore, you cannot count success symbols on your high dice rolls. So that's crazy, right? Or
That becomes a burden to the whole party.
yes, it does. So you only track the weight of items of war like armor, helms, shields, weapons, and everyday stuff is sort of hand waved in a way. Treasure is kind of can be is also um, stored, but not as items, but you usually have your mounts your to carry the load. Um, and then your load score is again becomes your starting fatigue rating, and then failed travel rules. And I think that's what's important and why it works so well mechanically is that it contributes to the weariness that you can gain during travel. So, a failed travel roll during the journey adds temporary fatigue, which is going to lower your ability to carry items and is going to lead to the weary condition. So, there's cultural blessings like dwarves can ignore that. Ponies and horses, like I mentioned, can help mitigate travel fatigue. And then you also can do lighter gear, leather corselets or short swords instead of plate mail and great axes, right? If you have low endurance. So I think that's a really fantastic treatment of endurance and how it comes into play. So it's not necessarily, it's throughout the course of the campaign in gameplay, this idea of burden, load, encumbrance, as opposed to just at some point you get your bag of holding, you don't have to worry about it, right? Or it's hand
Right.
weight. to begin with. So I think that's
Well,
a pretty cool concept.
what about the burden of factions or even your own alignment in games? A
Oh
good
yeah, that could be a
example,
mental burden, right?
well, not just that. I mean, what about the burden? I play a lawful good paladin in
Mhm.
D&D, and I am held to it every time I turn around.
Yeah. Well, you hold yourself to it. You can forget
Well,
about
that's
it.
because I want to play it the way it should be played. But I mean, that burden or the burden of the factions that you have, I
Mhm.
have good relations with the dwarves, so I can't let them be. I have the burden of keeping them safe or the burden of keeping secrets when I'm asked to as a character. Things of that nature. So I think burden is a very large blanket of things we could talk about.
Yeah, this is true.
Or the burden of a bad dice roll.
The burden of a bad dice roll and how it affects the party, right?
Yeah, mine get put in timeout immediately. We just skip the dunce cap at that moment in time. You roll in that one, you go straight to jail. There is no collecting the $200 that go,
Right.
but
All
they can
right.
redeem themselves. Dice can redeem themselves, right?
Or you throw them in, you could throw them in jail.
Oh, they're already in jail at that moment.
Yeah. Well, there you go. What about the next topic?
Reach.
Reach. Day number 6 is reach.
Hmm?
Uh, reach, the reach of your influence. You mentioned factions. The
Yep.
reach of your influence as a player character, your territory. When you do start doing domain play, what is the reach of your control and territory? Have you cleared it out of monsters? Are there bandits there? Right? I mean, that's pretty important
Hmm.
consideration, I think.
Well, not just that. What about the reach of RPG? Does it
Yeah.
reach the children or reach the older? Does it reach your heart where you want to just keep playing, or have you lost that love for it, or do you need to put it out of reach for a little while to make you enjoy it more? I mean, reach is an interesting word.
Yes, it is.
or or you roll the dice and you're one away and you don't have any meta currency, you just can't reach that item.
You can't reach that goal.
Can't
Right.
tell you how many times that's happened to me.
Right. So that's an interesting uh, handling of reach. And I think when I was growing up, um, I didn't. I mean, yes, D&D had a very niche appeal, but I think its reach has increased nowadays with it becoming, especially Dungeons and Dragons, becoming mainstream, and not necessarily all games, but gaming in general is not seen as the nerdy anathema it once was. Um, I think that's partially because of video games and
Movies.
movies, right? Right. That sort of fantasy genre for D&D, but maybe other things like sci-fi and all that, and the sort of the cultural zeitgeist of what is popular and what people like, right?
Well, what
Superheroes and superhero games, right? So, for
well,
example,
one more question for you. What about when you reach the end of a campaign?
right? How do you know when you reach the end of a campaign? Is it just
Do
because
you ever reach the end of
do
a
you ever reach?
campaign?
Yeah, that's true. Mhm. Do you ever reach uh, the end of a campaign? Reach is an interesting mechanic too, right? The reach of a weapon, a spear versus a sword versus a dagger, and how different game systems treat reach and reach weapons, right? I think a game that does a good job of that is Hyperborea, where reach comes into play when you tie initiative or you're setting to receive charge and guarding against an attack, right? And how does the reach of your weapon affect that or give you an advantage or disadvantage in that conflict? A funny use of reach, maybe it's funny, is in geography. And I'm just thinking about this because of the Forgotten Realms, there are quite a few reaches. So a reach is a continuous unbroken length or section of a stream, river, or canal. It's defined by uniform characteristics like slope, depth, flow, extended stretch of open land or water. And it's a segment of waterways between 2 points, stretch of water and land. In the Forgotten Realms, there's some important strategic reaches and frontier territories across the continent. The Wilhelm Reach was a major deep arm of the Sea of Fallen Stars. I ran a long-term campaign in the Wilhelm Reach back in 3.5 days. The Dragon Reach is separates the vast from the Dalelands in Sembia. There is the Easting Reach in the Sea of Fallen Stars, right? I think in you could compare those to like the Adriatic Sea, right? It's a reach of the Mediterranean, stuff like that. That's what that would kind of be. It's pretty interesting. There's a Wizard's Reach, a body of water on the southern coast of Faerun separating the mainland from Aglarond. So that's kind of interesting. Frontier land territories. Cormyr has west reaches and east reaches. Neverwinter has north dark reaches. It's so
And
funny.
then
They Ed Greenwood and the creators of the Forgotten Realms like the geographical term reach.
they certainly do.
We probably reached the end of dissecting this topic.
Yes, we have.
What's the next topic, Streamroller, for day
Oh,
7?
give me mercy.
Mercy.
Mercy from talking about reach. And I'm not talking about those chocolate candies that you give out, the Mercy.
Oh, that'd be fun.
But mercy. I personally think, and I've personally played in enough games to feel this way, I don't think enough player characters give mercy. I think they're out to murder hobo. And I like mercy. Take the prisoners or let them go. Or like for example, in our Forgotten Realms campaign where I play the paladin, I came across an evil priestess, but she was being held against her will. And, I think she was actually being kept asleep and I woke her up.
Right.
But she didn't do anything to my character. So myself and another character, I prayed to my God about it because that's what a paladin does. We let her go,
Yeah, you
much
showed
to the
some.
chagrin of so many other characters and players. They were like, you should have just killed her. But why? Why would I not take that opportunity to show mercy?
Right.
Because ultimately, when you show mercy, doesn't that set people up to pay that forward someday?
Maybe. Yeah, I
I
think if you
personally feel
start,
like even the most evil character out there deserves mercy.
yes, I agree. I think too many times they're quick to kill, and maybe that's part of it, part of the experience of the fantasy games that we play. But I think a great use of mercy that you have showed or your character showed was in the Twilight 2000 campaign. And without mercy, you wouldn't have been able to recruit a force, wouldn't able have wouldn't have been able to get like the Hind helicopter, the Mi-24 that you guys got for the Krakow coalition, form the coalition, and defeat the Black Baron. Although you did not show him any mercy in that big battle in the ruins of
He,
Warsaw.
he kind of
But
attacked us.
building,
I think mercy wasn't shown because mercy was offered and he didn't take it.
right, right. So and even but forming that coalition did show a lot of mercy and in the way you
Mhm.
handled things and making allies along the Vistula. Um, but then, and then being when people surrender, letting them surrender and then giving them a choice to just move on or join. And I think that shows
Mhm.
some really cool strategic play and a merciful trait. I think a fantastic treatment of mercy is in the King Arthur Pendragon role-playing game. It's a core directed trait that's paired against cruelty, and it measures the knight's disposition towards sparing foes, showing compassion. Right. So the way that this works is they're a opposed pair, merciful and cruel, and they share a total points of 20. And it becomes a famous trait if you make it 16 or higher, so you become famously merciful. And also it becomes a religious trait. It's a Christian virtue. Being merciful is tied to religious and chivalric bonuses. So then you make trait checks to see if you're merciful, whether you spare an enemy or execute prisoners or show grace to the vulnerable. So it's pretty interesting, how that is used and how, the topic of mercy in gameplay. I kind of like that. Um, does a GM show mercy when the players do something foolish and it might end up being a TPK, or do you let the dice fall where they may? What do you think, Stream Rollo?
I'm a proponent of mercy, but the dice are not always merciful. You
No,
kind of have to go with what they do.
that,
That's when you save all of your bennies or all of your little meta currency.
yeah,
But
to
at the
agree
same
with,
time, it begs the question of the character that you play in the game. If they don't show mercy, how does that reflect in your own life?
right?
Is
That's
mercy
true.
not on your mind?
Interesting.
I kind
Interesting.
of think we live in a society where mercy is set aside sometimes for personal gain.
Hmm.
When
Well, we don't
I
get
kind
too
of
political.
believe mercy would get us further.
That's probably true. That's probably true.
Works in the games
Yeah. And then
because
you can too.
you can change somebody's alignment, but you
Hmm.
can't do that if you don't show them mercy.
Yeah, you have to be the example. You have to
Hmm.
be like Russell Crowe in Gladiator and proclaim, "Am I not merciful?"
Now I need to go walk around in a field of wheat.
Yep. And that brings us to then day 8, resolve.
Do you have the resolve to end on day 8?
Do I have the resolve? Well, I know there's something behind me, a pile of boxes, and I am resolved to get these unboxed at some point. But what does resolve mean? We'll get to that. But what does resolve mean in the context of RPGs?
Many things. I'm resolved to my situation in games. I resolve to try and be a good party member and not run off. Although sometimes I get very frustrated because sometimes my resolve is to just not say anything at the table, even when it seems like other players in the game, their resolve might be to explain the game to me when I don't need it or any of those number of things. But
Hmm.
I mean, as a woman in gaming, I can't tell you. I would say probably 7 out of every 10 games, somebody's mansplaining something to me, making
Right?
me feel like I'm just playing with Barbies and I need to get out of the game. That kind of a feeling, but being resolved to stay in it.
Yeah. Stick with it. Stay in it. And resolve to do so. The resolve to, after a hard day of work, resolve to start a session to get the game going. I'm I've been better at it. I am better at it sometimes than others, but
Mhm.
we have to have that sort of tenacity and resolve to continue these, or we end up not being disciplined, which goes back to a week before, right? Yeah,
Well,
resolve.
even being resolved to start on time. If you say a
Yes,
certain time, being ready at the table with your dice, ready to play at that time. Being resolved to not delay. Because sometimes time is of the essence. Don't have all the hours in the day we wish. And things do get in the way. I'm not saying they don't.
right. Interesting. So, resolve is actually, there's some tabletop role-playing games that use resolve as a core mental attribute or character trait. Vampire the Masquerade and other Chronicles of Darkness, where it measures mental fortitude, concentration, resistance to coercion. So it's one of the three mental attributes alongside intelligence and wit slash composure, and it helps get your willpower pool in Vampire and Chronicles of Darkness. I interestingly, Blade Runner features resolve as a primary mental health and stress track, compared alongside physical health. So instead of stress, you have resolve, um, for that. So it's pretty interesting that that is used. There's some other minimalist games. There's TriCube Tales uses resolve as part of a point pool resource like Karma for
Mm-hmm.
actions and luck. So it's actually a resolve. So it's pretty interesting that there is some resolve can be a trait also in certain games. So yeah, I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah. But you were saying you're resolved to open every box on the floor so that the dog doesn't trip over it?
Yeah, or we don't trip over it, more importantly. So let me get to those for one. I'm gonna open this box here. You can probably put down the prompt if you would like, or stop the screen sharing. I think you were screen sharing that, correct?
Yes.
So this box here is, how big is it? Oh, did I lose everything? It's crazy. There is,
Well, we
no,
could probably pause for a
no,
second
no
while you
need, no
find
need. I found it.
everything.
I found it. Here it is. 13 inches, 33 centimeters by 26 centimeters and 10 inches. And looks like 16 and a half or 16 and a half centimeters or 6.5 inches thick. It is from Free League. I don't even remember what it is from Free League, honestly. This was back at the beginning of about a month ago, at the beginning of July that this came. I think I have an
Mhm.
older one too. So I'm opening this. Oh, oh, lots of stuff. This is cool. I got new dice. Invincible, the role-playing game.
It's a little shiny. I don't think they got to see the dice.
Invincible. There you go. If I do this like
There
this,
you go.
this is the dice, but this is the Invincible role-playing game, the best superhero comic in the universe. Make a
Sure
game
about
that
that?
Invincible. Huh?
I
We
said, are
saw
you
the first
sure
few
about
editions.
that?
I don't know. I have an Invincible superhero role-playing game now, a tabletop from Free League. This is like a comic book, the best superhero comic book in the universe. This one here, all shiny, shiny. Invincible. That's that. Then there's the. This looks like the Game Master screen with what is that game? Omni-Man? Is that Omni-Man? Is that his name?
I don't know. I think he died in the
No,
series, didn't he?
no, he didn't die in the series.
Oh,
But the Invincible, the main hero character, he kind of drove him off. But then there's some more. There's a CRB, the core rulebook. I wonder if Invincible does Invincible use Resolve? Like it's a free league game, so does Invincible?
probably.
I don't know. Your hero, patient, attribute. No, no. Fighting, agility, strength, reason, intuition, and presence. Oh, there is health and
Right.
resolve. They do health and resolve.
Huh?
So resolve is the stress. So resolve equals reason plus intuition plus presence divided by two. So it's your sort of stress mechanic compared to health. So this book looks pretty incredible with all the comic book art and stuff. I'll have to do a
Mhm.
bigger treatment of it and maybe roll up or make some characters. But not to fear, Streamrolla, there is the Invincible starter set, which probably has pre-gen. Yes, six pre-generated characters.
Because I am
Adam,
resolved
Adam
not to
Eve,
build another
Adam Eve,
character.
Bulletproof, Rexplode, Robot, Monster Girl, and Invincible himself. And it has
Ah,
little paw. Also, be great to be at to play at the table. It has like little pogs and maps and the character sheets. So that's pretty neat. It's pretty neat. So there's the Invincible starter set. That is pretty cool. I had totally forgotten about that. Now we got to run a campaign, of course. Anyway,
well, first, I'm going to be resolved to ask our listeners to hit that like and subscribe button down there.
yeah,
And you know what else they can do now, Carl?
what can they do?
They can buy us a coffee.
They can.
Link is in the description.
That is awesome. That is very cool. So, we will be here sooner rather than later. I think what's the next day? Oh,
So
priv-
we'll be back.
ooh, ooh, day 9 is interesting.
Yes,
We'll
it
have to get to
is.
that when we get to privilege.
But for now, we can say good night.
And good rolling.
Bye.
Well, that's
You
cool.
have to be resolved to hit the end button.
Oh, yes, I do. Sorry about that. Sorry, everybody.